Only recently, the city of Arlington in Texas was thrown into pandemonium following the arrest of Regla Suyu Becquer, a native of the city and owner of a popular adult care home named Loving and Caring for People LLC. What the police discovered was very disturbing. Tim Ciesco, spokesperson for the North Texas Police Department, had this to say. Through the course of the investigation, we have identified more than 20 clients of Miss Becquer who have died since September 2022. Recent reports have it that the 20 people who died in Becquer's care facility have also been ripped off their properties and bank accounts. In an unbelievable story of deception, theft, and murder, this is the twisted case of Regla Becquer, a 49-year-old woman who disguised herself as a caregiver to kill innocent people. The exact date on which LCP-LLC was established is unknown, but there are suggestions that it must have been in existence since 2022. Regla Becquer had established the facility to care for elderly people who were disabled and needed attention. Well, even though she was unlicensed, she still had the right to operate it under Texas law, which states that it is not illegal to run unlicensed community care homes in which clients pay to live and receive care in a group setting. So it was easy for the 49-year-old woman to disguise herself as a caregiver while perpetrating heinous crimes. Regla was able to convince several hospitals to refer their patients to her care facility when they didn't meet the criteria for care at a licensed group home. The number of patients she had during the years is unknown, but Regla expanded the company to 5 different locations, including 1210 Woodbrook Street in Arlington, 7411 Lake Whitney Drive in Arlington, 7419 Fossil Creek Drive in Arlington, 2059 Turtle Cove Drive in Mansfield, and 1852 Hidden Brook Drive in Grand Prairie. The numerous branches are evidence that the company was doing just fine and had several clients. Soon enough, the skeletons in her closet would be exposed following an incident that occurred in January 2024. On February 13, 2024, detectives secured an arrest warrant for Regla Becquer for abandoning and endangering the disabled and causing bodily injury to a certain elderly woman named Angelique Estes. 2 days later, on February 15, 2024, detectives served 3 search warrants at the LPC LLC houses on Lake Whitney Drive and Woodbrook Street in Arlington and the home on Turtle Cove Drive in Mansfield. Becquer was at the home in Mansfield and was taken into custody then. But it was just the beginning of something bigger, as the police reportedly found the car belonging to another victim named Stephen Pankratz, who died in January 2024. Pankratz's 2002 Suburban was found at Regla Becquer's Woodbrook Street home in Arlington, Texas. During the search of the 3 properties, the police also discovered large amounts of medications prescribed to multiple people, including members of Becquer's family and former patients who were both alive and deceased. They also found several empty prescription bottles of trazodone, which is one of the drugs the Tarrant County medical examiner said was in the mixture that led to Pankratz's death and was not something he'd been prescribed. In another twist, on the same day the police searched these homes, Becquer's employee Akasha Evans voluntarily went to the Arlington police and asked to speak to the detective leading the case. She told the detective that Becquer would bring the patient's medications to the house on Woodbrook Street, where she lived, and that Becquer would then sort the medications into pill containers. She also told the police that she believed another victim named Philip Johnson was already deceased when he was brought into the home on Woodbrook Street. Meanwhile, that wasn't the end of Becquer's woes, as more stories unfolded. On June 20th, 2004, the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office released its report on Pankratz's death, ruling it a homicide caused by a deadly mix of trazodone, tramadol, and mirtazapine. In their arrest affidavit, police said Becquer told family members of patients that she gave them something to prevent them from running away and that she had administered medications to patients. But on the other hand, surviving patients told police that they were given unknown liquids and medications, while their family members admitted that their loved ones were often disoriented and sluggish after visiting Becquer's facility. Meanwhile, detectives said they believe Becquer stole money from the patients, abused their debit and credit cards, forged documents and wills, and administered dangerous medicines that led to similar patterns of disorientation and declines in the health of her patients for her financial gain. An officer of the Arlington Police Department, Lieutenant Kimberly Harris, had this to say. All of their property was relinquished to the owner of Loving and Caring for People, Sue Becquer, and her family members, who also help with this business. They live in the houses with these individuals and are essentially their caretakers. We found that they took their possessions, such as their wallets, their identification, and their credit cards, and they misuse this information on wills, on credit card applications, and to obtain things such as vehicles. This accusation resulted in another charge against Miss Regla Becquer. Becquer, who had previously been charged with neglecting a patient in February 2024, was charged in June 2024 with the murder of Stephen Pankratz and is currently being held in the Tarrant County Jail on 2 bonds totaling $1.5 million. Her lawyer, Taylor Ferguson, was contacted by reporters but declined to make any comments on the issue. Regla Becquer's victims were initially reported to be 13 after her arrest in February 2024, but 7 more victims were discovered after the investigation in June 2024. In all cases, the pattern of death was similar. The affidavit used in filing the case against Becquer gave details of the victims in the 5 LPC LLC homes owned by Becquer. Arlington police said their probe began after an officer with the department's behavioral health unit reached out to a detective on November 20th, 2023 about some deaths that had occurred at an unlicensed bed and board homes, managed and ran by the same suspect. The BHU officer told the detective that Arlington police officers were sent to a home on Woodbrook Street where an elderly man had fallen in the backyard. A neighbor called 911 and said the man living next door was on the ground. When officers arrived, they were directed to a backyard where 59-year-old Gary Sherwood was lying. Sherwood told the police he had fallen. According to the affidavit, officers learned that the home where Sherwood was found was a group home where he and 2 other patients lived. A neighbor told police that the home was previously owned by a friend named Karen Walker, who was suddenly being cared for by Becquer. The neighbor said Walker died a few months later and Becquer gained possession of the woman's home. Another neighbor who told police she had been friends with Walker for decades said her friend began to have issues walking and that she later went to the hospital. She said she never heard from her friend again and later learned she had been put in hospice. The woman told police she didn't understand how someone could have obtained Walker's house, saying it was very important to her and had once belonged to her parents. Police spoke with 2 caretakers at the home, identified in the affidavit as 18-year-old Akasha Evans and 49-year-old Vivian Becquer, the sister of suspect Regla Becquer. Vivian Becquer and Evans told police that only 1 additional patient was inside the home. While officers spoke with Vivian Becquer and Evans, Regla Becquer arrived and identified Vivian Becquer as her sister. It was noted in the police report that Regla Becquer told Evans not to allow the officers inside the home to check on the welfare of the other patient, but on determining that there was an urgent need to verify the welfare of the patient, police and EMS entered the home and found 2 patients inside. According to the arrest document, Becquer allegedly told police that Sherwood had fallen multiple times and later changed her story that this was the first time he had sneaked out of the house. She claimed he was receiving 24/7 care, but the officer noted that Becquer's statement was false in the report. Meanwhile, because the home housed 3 patients or fewer, the Arlington fire marshal told police it did not meet the criteria to be a licensed group home, and there was no violation. According to the city of Arlington, group homes or personal care facilities with more than 3 residents unrelated to the property owner in a residential community in the state of Texas must be properly licensed through the Texas Department of Aging and Disability Services, DADS. Personal care facilities with less than 4 residents unrelated to the property owner are not required to register with the state. During the search, officers checked the vehicles in the driveway of the home on Woodbrook Street and found one belonging to a man named Philip Johnson. Mr. Johnson, police discovered, had died weeks before, on October 20th, 2023, after being reported missing by his daughter. As officers investigated the missing persons report, they went to his residence on Fossil Creek Drive and were told he'd been relocated elsewhere. Johnson's daughter told police she'd received a phone call from Becquer, upset that she'd called police to report him missing. In the arrest affidavit, police said the man's daughter later received a call from a hospice center letting her know her father had died. Moving on December 1st, 2023, the behavioral health officer of Arlington spoke with the next of kin and cousin Karen Walker, another of Becquer's victims. The cousin said Walker's health started falling and was advised by doctors to be placed in a home where she could be cared for. The hospital in turn recommended she contact Becquer at a home on Turtle Cove Drive in Mansfield. Walker's cousin believed she moved into the house in September 2022 or October 2022 and added that he could occasionally speak to Walker only through Regla Becquer's phone. According to statements in the affidavit, Walker's cousin said she told him she didn't like being at home and would call 911 to go to the hospital because she didn't feel safe and she thought the people there were trying to kill her. Walker's cousin said she sounded disoriented and that the call abruptly ended when he talked to her about becoming her power of attorney. He was, however, notified about 2 weeks later by the TCME that Walker had been found deceased at the home on Turtle Cove Drive. Her cause of death, according to the affidavit, was unknown at the time. In the affidavit, detectives said they obtained a one-sentence handwritten will dated October 7, 2022, leaving Walker's entire estate to Becquer. That document, filed with the Tarrant County Probate Office, is now the subject of an active forgery investigation by Arlington police detectives. Arlington detectives, having searched Becquer's Fossil Creek facility, discovered it was vacant, but something wasn't still right about the place. They found out that on December 13, 2023, the police had visited the house on Woodbrook after someone called 911, claiming a friend texted her and said she was being held against her will at home. Behavioral health officers went to the home and found 53-year-old Angelique Estes, who immediately told them, "I don't want to be here." Officers learned Estes had cerebral palsy and diabetes, was completely immobile, and could only move her arms. She told the officers she moved into the home 5 days before and after 2 days, informed the people working there that she wanted to leave, but they wouldn't let her leave. She said before coming they had promised to give her a bed, but she was left on a mattress on the floor. She also added that her condition required her to wear a diaper, but she was forced to sit in her own feces because the staff allowed her to go multiple days without changing the diaper. This was true, as the officers noted the strong smell of urine and feces in the home. However, the individuals who worked in the house claimed they had changed her diaper the night before and had given Estes medicine, but didn't know what it was. Estes described it as a minty liquid and said they gave it to her when she would get upset about not being allowed to leave. More so, Estes revealed that they kept her in a room with another patient and had kicked her while she was in there. Going further, Estes also told police that on more than one occasion, people in the home would stand over her and pour cups of water on her, making it difficult to breathe. And in a desperate attempt to leave, she cut her wrists, hoping someone would call 911 and take her to the hospital. But detectives said there was no history of 911 calls at the residence, meaning no one called 911 about Estes trying to cut her wrists. However, one thing the officers noted in their report was the abrasions on Estes' wrists. Also, according to statements in the affidavit, when firefighters asked Estes if she wanted to go to the hospital, she screamed yes, and was heard in the background of police-worn body cameras yelling, "Get me out of here." She also identified Regla Becquer as the home's operator. On December 21, 2023, Arlington police detectives called 71-year-old Indukuri Raju, a former resident at the home on Fossil Creek. Detectives spoke with his family, who said after Raju fell several times, he was referred to Regla Becquer by the villages of MacArthur, a rehab facility. The family told police Raju moved into the home on Woodbrook Street on October 23, 2023, and that afterward they had a hard time reaching him. When they visited him, he wasn't acting normal, and he appeared disoriented and tired. They said he told them someone took $200 out of his wallet. According to the family's statement, Becquer claimed she knew nothing about the money and that he was tired because he wasn't sleeping well at night. After 5 days in the home, Raju's family tried to reach him by phone, but Becquer told them he wouldn't speak to them, which was unusual. The family then later received a call from Greenleaf Hospice informing them that Raju was with them and was in very bad condition. Soon, the hospice began talking to Raju's family about making funeral arrangements. However, on November 1st and 2nd, 2023, the family received several calls from Raju, who told them he was very upset and thought the people in the house were trying to kill him. They visited him the next morning at the home on Woodbrook Street and said he looked pale, his cheeks were sunken in, and his usually round stomach was flat. They took him out of the house and requested his medications, but Becquer told them they were at the house on Fossil Creek and would later be sent to them. However, the medications were never received. On the ride home, Raju's family thought he was being poisoned, as he complained of a stomachache that lasted about 4 to 5 days. Raju was taken to his primary care doctor, who told them he had contracted syphilis. Furthermore, several fraudulent debit card charges were discovered on Raju's account between October 24, 2023 and November 13, 2023, but the charges stopped after his card was canceled. Currently, the Arlington Police Department is investigating the card use to determine if it was fraudulent. Still, on December 22, 2023, Arlington police detectives and an officer with the Behavioral Health Unit drove to Irving to speak with Cynthia Ambergi, a woman whose 80-year-old father died at the home on Fossil Creek on October 25, 2023. Ambergi told investigators that her father had been living at the Villages of MacArthur for about 5 years and was referred to Regla Becquer after he became violent with some of the staff. She said Becquer was going to administer her father's medications and that during their visit on October 1, 2023, her father's first day in the home, he seemed excited about his room. Ambergi told police that on several occasions, Becquer had tried to raise the price for her father's care, but when she found a business card for another care facility among his belongings, she decided he was going to be transferred to a place in Arlington called Town Hall. However, after that conversation, Becquer stopped talking to Ambergi, and when she visited her father, whom she described as disoriented and lethargic, Becquer would follow them around and not allow her to speak to him alone. After that day, Becquer told Ambergi that she would need to make an appointment anytime she wanted to visit her father, which was not so previously. Ambergi also stated that when she called, Becquer would give the excuse that her father was asleep, which was odd because he was always awake and walking around at the rehab center during the day. On October 23, 2023, Becquer called Ambergi and told her that she needed to meet at the house to talk about hospice and end-of-life care for her father. A few minutes later, Ambergi received a text message from Greenleaf Hospice saying her father was disoriented, unable to feed himself, and that he had blood coming out of his mouth. The hospice said they ordered medicine for her father, but being an attorney, she never authorized any new medications for him, adding that while her father was at the Villages of MacArthur, there was no concern about end-of-life care and he was healthy and strong. 2 days later, on October 25, 2023, Ambergi received a phone call from a hospice nurse telling her that her father was dead. Ambergi was shocked to learn that her father, who was walking and healthy when he moved into the home on October 1st, had suddenly died. As for his medications that she never got back, Ambergi wasn't sure what happened to them. Still on the investigation, the Arlington police detectives on January 3, 2024, met with Valerie George, a 68-year-old woman who told them she lived at the home on Fossil Creek from July 31, 2023 to August 16, 2023. She also added that Regla Becquer was the operator of the bed and board and would occasionally provide her with alcohol, even when she was a recovering alcohol addict. Soon, she became uncomfortable in the home, and on a certain night, she woke up to a man screaming, "Get off of me," in another part of the house. Valerie George said the man's name was Kelly, and she didn't know his last name. However, her description of a patient who was white with blonde hair and using a wheelchair matched that of Stephen Kelly Pancratz, who police said was under Becquer's care in one of her homes. Immediately after she heard the screaming, she and her roommate, whom police have not yet identified, heard voices coming toward their room. Both patients pushed Valerie's wheelchair towards the door, while Becquer and another woman soon entered. Valerie George, who was scared as they walked towards her, started crying and grabbed a letter opener to protect herself. Becquer and the other woman left, but returned moments later with a cup of blue liquid and a syringe. It's unclear if any of the medication was given to George, but thereafter, the police were called to the home, and Valerie was taken to John Peter Smith Hospital in Fort Worth on a notification of emergency detention. This happened on August 16, 2023. Fortunately, she never returned to Becquer, but noticed that her bank account had some unusual activity, and her Social Security Direct Express card had been tampered with. In the case of Stephen Kelly Pancratz, his brother Chris Devendorf said he developed a brain condition that confused him, and after being hospitalized for sepsis, he broke his ankle on the way home. Pancratz was subsequently placed in Becquer's Turtle Cove home in Arlington, which Devendorf said led his brother's condition to go rapidly downhill. He claimed that Becquer wouldn't take him for scheduled doctor's appointments, and they struggled to get into contact with Pancratz for several months. Going further, Devendorf stated that the last time he spoke with his brother was in January 2024, when he suffered from the slurred speech patterns that concerned him. Hours later, Pancratz died inside one of Becquer's homes, though at the time the cause of his death was not ascertained as an autopsy had not yet been conducted. However, Pankratz's brother became suspicious of Becquer and sought to know if he was drugged. Subsequent examinations proved this to be true. But aside from that, Becquer is also alleged to have stolen money from Pancratz, claiming that she spent $100,000 taking care of him in 6 months. Although the purchases were made in his name, his family claims that he was known to be frugal to the point of being cheap, and spending excessively was out of character for him. Furthermore, many of the purchases were also made online, even though Pankratz did not own a phone or computer. Following a raid by the Arlington police on the Woodbrook Street home on February 15, 2024, Stephen Pankratz's 2002 Suburban Chevrolet was found there, which was an indicator that Regla Becquer had forfeited it after Pankratz died. The Arlington Police Department has continued to work harder to uncover more foul play by the 49-year-old caregiver. At this time, Regla Becquer has only been charged in 2 cases involving 2 clients. The remaining 18 are still being investigated. Meanwhile, the police have been working with the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office and their families to gather as much information as possible about the cause and manner of the deaths of the remaining victims. They want to determine whether any of the victims' deaths are suspicious or criminal, adding that additional charges are expected to be filed as the investigation continues. As the Arlington police continue their search for additional victims who are under Becquer's care, including at locations that are currently unknown, they have expressed their desire to speak to any current or past loving caring for people clients and the patient's family members. Also, those with information are asked to call a special tip line at 817-575-3230, which they say is a voicemail-only line that will be monitored daily. Those who call the tip line are advised to leave a voice message with their contact information, so an officer with the department's behavioral health unit can follow up with them. As we call it a wrap on this rather eerie story of true crimes, do you think the police will succeed in uncovering the truth? Should unlicensed care homes be banned? Kindly let us know your opinion in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.